slow. We have you can tell me, right? Calibrate. Like a brightness level on an iPhone, you can calibrate it, right? Fine. Adapting, right? Very good. What I'm asking you to do also, give me feedback on, am I using language that maybe contains jargon, so let's say a field of capital raising, that maybe is completely new to you, and I'm overestimating how much you know of it. So I do ask you constantly, okay, how many of you know this? But once in a while, maybe some of you have a very polite poker face, and I don't know whether you know, right? So am I using any terms today that are like, what is this? This is completely new, I'm so confused.
No, not this far.
Okay. All right. Language proficiency. I understand you're in a top university, right? You're very good for nationality sometimes, but you know, the language is good. So not too complicated, clear. Okay. Do I need to explain slightly differently sometimes?
Actually, I have one question.
Shoot.
At the beginning, you had such term, FTO. What does it mean?
Freedom to operate.
Freedom, okay. Yes. I googled FTO.
This is substrate for solar cells. Fluorine doped oxide.
Okay. I'm not completely sure what you're asking. The FTO thing, I think it's a legal thing that you guys have? Or did I mention FTO?
Yeah.
I. He did.
Oh, yes.
I'm a different person. Although it's nice. We're handsome men, right? Okay, guys, just to be clear. So, gentleman on the right with a laptop. Okay. Are you writing some sort of email, working in parallel to this? Are you doing parallel something else? Understood. So, did you come a bit later, or you came from the very beginning? Okay. No, what I mean is, did you hear the explanation why I'm asking you guys to switch off the laptops for now?
Yes. So that we remember something. We're also taking notes.
Right, and so you have these A4s in front of you, right? There's paper.
But I just can't write with my pen.
Do you have a disability by disability tablets? No, guys, I'm not kidding. I've trained so many people over the years. There's some, like I'm training brain researchers, big group, and one individual had a legal condition where she could not use handwriting.
I mean, it's like 5 times faster than my laptop.
All right, so let me be very clear. Now I have a trade-off. I say, please keep your laptop, keep writing your thing, right? And I get part of your attention and you're multitasking, right? Or I get you to switch off your laptop and have that handwriting and struggling and be slow. Well, if you use tabs, you will, right? Because I'm going to give you a writing task right now. They're recording this, by the way, for you, right? So eventually you're going to be pitching, you're going to be recorded, you'll get video material. That's why I guess they're asking you to use the microphone so that you can actually hear it. All right, thank you for joining us. I rather have your full attention, right? If you have something on an urgent deadline, I totally get it, and I'll be practical. But if I'm paid a good amount of money to be here, I'm responsible for the outcomes to some extent. And part of the outcome, because I cannot just regurgitate and tell you what to do, you're all individuals from your own personal experience, your own projects, and you're experts in your own subject matter. You get me? And I actually need to give you something that you'll do yourself. You decide what you need to do, but we will be impaired. Clear? Okay. If you could focus fully, I would appreciate that. Not because of me, but because of the outcomes. Cool? Apologies. I know I'm being annoying. All right, guys. So here's the task. But I want to manage expectations. I'm explicitly asked to teach you a structure. You've been asked to present at least 9 slides. At least. At least. Right? You're asked to expand on the project. Now, there's most likely logic, right? You're asked to do a 12-month budget estimate. You're asked to talk about your team. You're asked to perform market analysis. So you perform the secondary wind turbine recycling market analysis, right? For example, right? Each of you are supposed to do this. From what I've been told, most of you have slide decks already, if I understand correctly. So how many of you have slides already? All right, clear. Now, we're not focusing on slides for now. But I am aware that most people conflate, they mix up presentation and slides as one-on-one. We are going to do something else connected eventually to those slides, but the implication is you will have to completely rework them. Do you get me? You will not just be using those existing slides. We need to rework how you deliver presentations verbally. Get me here? So for now, I'm going to give you 20 minutes. You will not have enough time to produce a full draft for 5 minutes. At best, you will have time to produce a 3-minute presentation. Similar to what we had with Roman. I collected information, right? And I produced a proto pitch, a limited version of the pitch that explained the problem, the nature of the problem, right? I talked about him as a team member. I talked about the market itself. You get me? But there's certain steps I skipped. I need to produce something similar. I do want numbers. I do want facts. I don't reductionist logic. I do want you to start touching upon what you've actually built. So for example, the TP material that Roman has. Ideally, would have unpacked what exactly is so unique about it and have expanded a little bit more. And I guess this would be in a classification of field of science, closer to that. I need you to write it down on a piece of paper in legible handwriting. Legible means you can actually read it. It's closely more or less the same, right? Unless you're very used to your own cursive. So you do you, but I just had too many cases people wrote in their normal handwriting and says, what did I write? I just seen too much of it, okay? So my suggestion is use caps. I'm from a medical family, so when you do the prescription, you know, it's horrible, all right? And I have something similar. So I heard this stuff before. Part of the reason why I ask you to write on a piece of paper, yes, it's harder. Yes, you'll make mistakes. Yes, you'll cross over things and all that. But you'll remember more simply for this fact, unless you have some sort of special disability with your handwriting. It'll also remove any distraction for your inbox, from your software, from whatever you're working on. All right? Because I need deep work. Deep work implies zero distractions. So don't open your phones. Don't start looking stuff up for now, purely from the top of your head. Don't write a formal speech. I'm not requesting you to do something like a politician would. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the faculty, it's a great honor to be here. Don't do that. Do you get me here? Go immediately to the point. 30% of energy produced across the globe every year is wind energy. Now, the problem with that is that the average lifespan of one wind turbine is roughly 5 years. And people who run the wind parks, people who produce those turbines, or basically want to get an economic output, the life should be at least 8 years. What we do is make sure that after the critical, or during the critical first 3 years of the wind turbine, the people who own it can maintain it in real time before it completely gets destroyed. Do you get me? So I'm rephrasing what we had before with Roman. I am not beginning with, hello, dear sir, madam. You'll have a slide for that too. You'll be a subject. There will be your name. You don't have to regurgitate it for now, okay? You can, what we're trying to do, a pitch is a short form presentation. You're managing people's attention. You're trying to get them to listen to you and to understand you, right? We're also trying to be methodical about how we speak, so pauses. For example, Roman, when he came over, we tested this, you saw it. He spoke way too fast and he used way too many phrases. And you're researchers. And the best a lot of you could do is maybe 2, 3, 4 keywords. Remember this? You were not giving him full attention. You were not able to follow what he's saying. And some of you are, in fact, in adjacent fields, most likely. Like 4 colleagues here, and some of you know him from before. I will give you 20 minutes. There will be a big timer. If you want to put this in pitch deck terms, the ones that you have, I want a problem and a solution. I want a component, at least, of the team. I want you to touch upon the market. Is that clear enough so far? And I want you to talk about the science a bit. More specifically, how the science enables the solution. And how that science gives you a competitive edge. Do I need to unpack what that means? Basically, unique. How it's unique? What is that you know that is going to make it really viable and really maybe resilient for the problem? So for example, if he developed a special synthetic material that can be coating the wind turbine, and he's the only or one of the few people on the planet who has developed this and has absorbing properties that put him uniquely positioned in the sensor market better than anything else, I want to hear about that. Who knew? I'll stop talking. So again, it's not a complete structure that I'm expected to give you. It is a proto pitch. Do you want 20 minutes? Do you want 25 minutes? Do you want 15 minutes for this exercise? 20. I used to give 15 minutes. And every time people said this is not enough time. So I increased it to 20. You have complicated topics, so I'm trying to accommodate with you. Do you want more time? Do you want less time? Okay, let's see 20. All right? How many of you are not clear on what the task is? Yes, sir. All right, so you need to write down a script. You're producing roughly 3 minutes out of the 5 minutes. Clear so far? No budgets for now. No ask for now. No. Right? This is later. Okay, so, all right. Let me just point what we need. Okay? I want problem and solution, if you want to use those terms. So problem and solution. Clear? In the BioShot format, this is a bit different from the BioShot format. It is not a one-to-one replica. This structure influenced by the BioThought structure, right? But you have a hybrid structure. So I'm giving you roughly 50% of it. So the categories are problem, solution, team, market. You guys call it in the program market analysis. Clear? There's also this thing called scientific field. Let's put this, I need to understand what exactly is, for example, explain the material to me, right? How did you approach developing it, right? Try to give me a practical summary if you want a synopsis. But I don't want this in a crowded slide. I don't need a lot of text. Clear so far? Okay, so dude, basically we're doing a component of it. So roughly 5 categories. And ideally, I want to see this in a story. Ideally. I don't expect this from you, but ideally I'd like to see that in a story format. Because a narrative format is more memorable. It chunks the information in such a way, in fact, I'm more likely to follow it and actually remember it and ask you more intelligent questions. If you just give me a bullet point format, it tends to be inside, one ear and the other one. Because it's like an index. You get me here? Okay, good. All right, 20 minutes. So I'm assuming it's clear. to the recording too, and we've been asked to use it. So for example, you go to Chrome, and we'll give you this login information.
Ah.
This button.
We take this one or?
Roughly random 5 minutes. So this is the download button. Right. Okay. Understand. Let's do file.
Oh, okay. And another one, yes?
Roughly 5.
Another, five.
Yeah, so it's the random selection, and I can also ask for consent. I need to stop the.
Okay, yes.
I'm trying. I need to. Make the. No. If you download it. Pause. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is our call to finalize your drafts. And after this exercise, I asked, for over a decade, I asked the same question. How was this exercise like? Right, we're using a conversational style, you're generating observations, and you're generating these observations for each other mostly, but also for yourself. Right, you're reflecting on the task you've performed. I ask you, how was this writing exercise like for you? Any comments? Go. Just to be clear, you can totally also be critical. You can be super positive. You can be neutral. But I do need you to verbalize this. Let's do it, sir. Mindukas was it, right?
I would verbalize like this, that I'm using still my old thinking and old knowledge, what I used to prepare, but not new. So this is still based on my experience, and I'm thinking what will happen during the presentation, what I will get from it, how to modify it. Is my old knowledge.
Understood. You're writing from a standpoint of what you did before.
Yeah, yeah.
I see. Understood. Fair enough. And you see how it's going to be. We will test it.
Yeah, I want to see.
Right. So you're going to come here and you will get feedback from the audience. So this is a quick comment. Okay. Fair enough. Anybody else? How was this exercise like? Sir? Understood.
Basically, the 20 minutes went to for the first 2 points, problem, solution, and science. So nothing about the team, nothing about the market yet, but
Understood.
yeah, so it took longer than expected, just to think on how to present it correctly.
Understood. So you took components, right? Again, this is not a complete presentation. We took a segment of it. And so it already took quite a bit longer. If you could specify a little bit more, what was the challenge with those categories? Like, what was harder?
Not to go into too many details, because this is what I probably tend to do, is go into too many details that will end up eating most of the time that I have. So,
Prioritization of information. You're deciding what to include, what to remove.
and how to phrase it so that it's not very long.
Understood. So in shorter sentences, shorter paragraphs. Very good, but still being representative, right? So not being simplistic, but still being explanatory. Understood. So it's a balancing act, what to include, what not to include, so you don't go too long, and still making short sentences that are understandable and representative. So that's a challenge. Okay, cool. Anybody else? How was this exercise like? Miss? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was the challenge? So what was hard about it? Understood. If I understand correctly, so again, a lot of you have previous versions, and you are reapplying or you're trying to restructure it. Did I get this right? This was Bindukas' comment, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. You have a background. Understood. You have old habits. And you're applying these previous stories. No, you can do your old stuff, but we will test it. So after you present for roughly 3 minutes, I will ask the group polling questions, but I will also randomly select several of you to reflect back what you heard. It's not dissimilar what we had early with Roman. So whatever you do, if a person is not able to retell what you said in specific enough terms, it's harder for a person to actually evaluate and listen and pay attention to. So indeed, you might have a good script from before, right? But we need to test it. And so this is a preparation for that. Yeah, I can quickly come up with a pitch based on content, but I need to give you time. The advantage you have is that you're subject matter experts, most of you, in the things you're presenting about, right? There might be categories you're not exactly comfortable with, right? The new ones, the business ones, but still, a lot of you are able to explain what exactly is your technology or your science. You're able to explain what the problem, hopefully, you're solving with an example, right? So you have that knowledge. But I'm asking you to put this in writing, right, in the script. Anybody else? How was this exercise like? People who haven't spoken before, right? So you, if I may. Yes, please. Understood. Understood. So you realize that you have a lot to say and that you might be running out of time to say it all. It will get lost. So, sir, what was your name once again? Sorry? Artis. So you had a similar adjacent point because he was deciding what to include and to prioritize. This is a very common recurring issue when people are asked to write a short script explaining something more complicated. So you're a good company. Gentlemen, how was this task for you, the two of you? Yes, sir.
I tried to use your fairy tale about
Fairy tale. All right, cool.
about nice windmills as a draft for my situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about difference between your really touch everything problem which you solve and my problem which is more approach to ground, more approach to real life, but not so maybe interesting or not so sound or piece of
Can you give me just a little bit of content? What was the down-to-earth thing that you're working on? Just a little bit. Give me some context.
material science, polymer science. Imagine that I'm thinking about new paints, new coatings for any article.
Understood. Coatings, paints, airplanes.
No, paint, not only the airplanes for, imagine starting from night and ending with structure elements and so on. Any which you want to cover with paint.
That's a very wide net, man.
From iron, which is corrosive.
Oh, so protective coating. So not dissimilar a little bit from Roman. He has obviously a sensor, but what you have is, for example, we paint metal to protect it from the elements. So, but you're developing a polymer coating of some kind? No.
We are developing some kind of testing apparatus,
A testing facility.
testing equipment
Okay, so even more closer. Probably not light, but some sort of testing equipment for.
for to study, to test, to research and develop.
Okay.
With paints.
And if I understand it correctly, what I told with Roman's case seemed like a fairy tale to you. I know you're being humorous. I know you're being funny. But if you could expand on that.
Yes, sir. Your story was a straight film, but my story is difficult.
Understood. So let me comment this very explicitly. What I want from you is not just the technology, let's say, a testing equipment that measures, I know, polymers or looks at the surface or metal being coated with paint of some kind. I don't just want you, I do want you to explain that eventually, but I want you to explain to me why that is relevant. I need you to give me examples. You don't have to do it now. And I don't want a fairy tale, meaning a highly exaggerated fake story. I don't need that. I want an honest story. I need examples. Do you get me? Your research is relevant, but it needs to be put in the context of how it's going to be used, and not just in a singular, so not just one wind turbine for him, right? But scaled up and what it means for larger energy production. Do you get me? I know. What I mean is I'm just using Roman as an example, right? It's just a category. So a micro level example scaled up to a larger one. Do you get me? And I want representative numbers. I want representative statistics that will give me an idea of the scale of the program. I don't want fairy tales. You feel me, guys? I just want practical examples. And I want to see where if I replicate this in a larger market, what will be the impact of your technology? Yes, Roman.
Our discussion was not very detailed because we had concrete goals and we had concrete statistics and concrete market, and it was not very
Yes.
detailed.
Guys,
I don't speak about Roman, I speak about you.
It's okay.
In your reproduction, it was as a real fairy tale because I was thinking
Yeah.
about perfect idea. Tomorrow I will come with you to invest to.
it sounded too good to be true.
Yes.
It sounded too good to be true.
After your.
I understand. Okay. Got it. So, guys, occasionally this is a byproduct because I have high fluency. I sound like a guy sometimes that sells stuff. And I'm not pointing out a lot of risks, right? I'm not giving you a risk profile. I'm not pointing out an appendix with the technology. I've been checking out your decks. I'm not showing you a tremendous amount of charts initially. I'm segmenting information. And you have training and experience to the contrary. You're used to something else. You get me? So you have a different mental model. I am looking for you to be fluent, and have representative stories. Now, maybe my tone of voice emotionally indicated that, hey, this is like I'm painting a big picture. Partially I am, but I want an honest, factually correct picture. Do you get me here? You do not have to be exhaustive. So, madam, you had a challenge. You wanted to sell this, but you also had, what was her name? Hey. So, madam, you had, for example, a struggle that you wanted to say everything. I don't want the whole academic paper. Do you get me? I want at best a synopsis. Clear? I'm using it as an analogy. And doesn't mean the synopsis is wrong. It just needs to give me an idea whether I want to continue looking into the paper, for example. Do you get me? Again, it's not a perfect analogy, but it's close enough. You can use your own natural tone of voice if you want, but I want pauses, I want emphasis, I want examples. So people who are not you can relate to it. And they can imagine that this is much bigger than it actually is, not just purely based on the lab equipment, but what it could be in the next 5-7 years. Because if I just look what you have, I see a lot of risks potentially. And something needs to compensate in terms of opportunities. Do you get me? So 200,000, if I'm investing private money, it is money for you to learn. It's to test. You're getting 200,000 as a grant. You're not even giving up equity. The only thing I guess you're giving away is time for reporting, if I understand correctly. I understand, right? But you know the grand game, right? The Horizon Europe's, right? The local research council. Yeah.
Before you have money,
Yeah.
need to get the risks, the possible risks. And this is our everyday job when we submit proposals.
Correct.
So in this stage, we do not mention the risks. We show the one side of the coin. The risk is another side of the coin. What would be this? You show the nice structure, this funnel.
Mm-hmm.
This is stage 3 when you discuss and we make decisions.
Okay.
Give money or not.
Okay, guys, I will comment. Okay. Ooh. This is semester worth of content, so let me simplify. Do you know what framing is? Framing effect in psychology. Closer, right? So frame. Do you know what a cognitive bias is? Okay, you probably know selection bias, right? When you cherry pick data. Okay, the group of stuff, for example, related to p-hacking. And when you start looking for stuff deliberately, right? You're making something look really nice, right? But there's, in human psychology, there's 200 plus cognitive biases. For example, when you're voting, you're selecting a candidate. It's a very often emotional decision. So for example, if you have a politician that you think is a crook, but he or she is saying something true, you might start becoming very skeptical because you think the politician is a crook, although the statement is correct, like Trump. You get me? Or you might be looking for information that will support your pre-existing prejudice or belief. This is so-called confirmation bias. There's a very particular psychological effect called framing effect. Framing effect is that you can look at a glass half full, half empty, for example. You can look at the downside of a project, you can look at the upside of a project. You can, of course, do both. But people, for example, negativity bias, optimism bias, right? Am I losing you? Do you guys get what I'm talking about? In the Q&A with venture capitalists, they can frame questions around opportunity or de-risking, right? So how are you going to make sure that your team is competent in scaling this company across, I don't know, 50 different markets? What they're doing is basically commenting that they're not sure that you have what it takes to scale this company across 50 markets, but they're posing it as a question. For example, a cousin of it, which is more aggressive, is the loaded question. Like politicians usually get this, and they get media training to not answer those questions fully. They say, why do you hate animals? As an example. Why do you hate Latvia? That's a loaded question. But the more subtle cousin is, listen, it seems you guys are really, really competent in your field of research, and I'm very excited what you guys have, but can you tell me a little bit more about how this can actually scale? Right? And do you have a proof of concept for this? Do you see what I'm asking? Don't pay attention to the content fully. How am I framing the question? What's the risk am I highlighting? Okay, guys.
We should frame our stories positively.
All right, so when we started talking, this had to do with risk, right? So when you're framing, so for example, when you're defending a thesis or your research or an academic conference, right? You tend to do stuff, what, for example, you did with me. What's on the x-axis, if they get it correctly, where you start criticizing the research?
So you're saying we're not lying, we are framed, right?
Framing effects is how you select information. And for example, the glass can be half full. The glass can also be half empty. In physical, so there's research regarding medical interventions. A doctor can frame a diagnosis or, let's say, a medical treatment around this treatment has a 90% chance of curing you, right? Or improving your health outcomes depending on the KPIs. You can say, or you have a 10% chance of mortality. And the people who are framing the same intervention around positive outcomes specifically, well, placebo is a thing, right? Framing psychological impact, stress, effect of stress, that has real-world psychological outcomes on treatment. This is a related concept. If you're stuck in a meeting and they're constantly trying to de-risk and asking you risk questions, that tends to not go in your favor. Now, the reason I'm commenting on this is the fairy tale / risk conversation. You get me? Opportunity and risk go hand in hand. If you're entering the domain of you wanting to build the company, there's a lot of things wrong with you right now. And if I will look hard enough, long enough, I will always find reasons why I will not give you money. Do you understand me? And if you only frame your pitch around how you de-risk everything, that is not enough. Now, does it mean that you should avoid de-risking? No. You can make it more likely that somebody's going to say yes. Clear? But you need to get me more excited about the opportunity of what it could be. It's a combination of credibility, logic, and emotion. You feel me? So you have to balance it. In a pitch content, I don't want, for example, I will show you. I've been just reviewing your slides behind that door already. You create really crowded slides thinking people will follow what you're saying. They won't. And you can prove to me that you have all the things thought through. And you think that proving to me that you've thought things through and complied with everything, that somehow I'm going to give you money basing on that decision. No. Do you get me here? It's not like you're going to be a straight A student and you're going to get money. By giving me more information, you're not improving my decision making. There were studies on people who are betting on horses. You know, there's a jockey, there's a horse, there's a race, they gamble. By providing more information about the horse and the jockey, outcomes were not improved. Same goes for venture capitalists. They think they make decisions on more information than they actually do. You think you make decisions, more rational decisions than you actually do a lot of the time. You have cognitive gating. Do you know what cognitive gating is? Okay, who of you studies light here? Light, photons, light, right? So your eyes. Do you know why we have in software read, green, and blue, RGB? Right, we have basically like, I think 4 types of cones, correct me here. So the color cones, the read, green, and blue, and the brightness cones. Yes? We don't see every wavelength of light. We sample a very small fraction of it. Same happens with audio. We sample our environment and we use heuristics, mental shortcuts to make decisions. We quickly profile a person, we feel a certain way, and then we post hoc rationalize. Do I need to explain what post hoc rationalization is? Okay. If I feel like you're a nice guy and I should trust you, I am more likely to, if I decide to invest into you, I'm more likely to find logical reasons after the fact why I should invest into you. But if I don't trust you and you're still making perfect sense, I will go out of my way to find reasons why not to invest into you. I will start asking you either loaded, most likely more negatively framed questions, to bury you or basically give you the shovel and bury your own grave. Do you understand? Absolutely.
Here, actually, there are two processes in our solution. One is pitching, and another is a completely reversed way. We write scientifically what business scientific. So the pitching means the commission will have exact criteria. They have no chances to rob us because we know these criteria. We should match this. So this is for business pitching. This is probably very good, but for our pitching, it's specific.
Let me paraphrase what I heard. Okay, guys, so if I understand, let me paraphrase what I heard. You're creating, so 2 stages for you. So one is the traditional scientific method, kind of like a peer review, but more like a committee, who's asking you detailed questions about how your thing works, whether your methodology is correct, right? How can you make certain claims? They vet you, they verify, they grill you.
I mean, if we pass the pitch, we are allowed to write the program.
If you pass the pitch, you can write the project. Okay.
And the project is scientific already. Again, we include some business things. We need to include, but another
Okay, so let me put this in business terms. There's a thing called, think of it as product market fit, but it's a 3-fold Venn diagram. Venn diagram is like circles, right? Desirability, viability, and feasibility. Let me translate this. Do people want the thing you're building, and how badly? Viability, will they actually pay enough money for you to be worthwhile as a business? And feasibility is closer to what we're starting to discuss, and this is, can we actually do this technologically, right? I'll give a negative example. So there was a company that tested blood. Its name was Theranos. You might have heard about this. If you haven't, there was a woman whose name is Elizabeth Holmes. Now, Elizabeth is currently, I think, either on house arrest or in prison. All right. She had this idea that we can take enough, small finger prick of blood, right, small vial, and perform all the range of tests. And we don't need these big vials. And she had a team of scientists who she didn't exactly listen to because she already had a pre-existing vision. And they were telling that this is not feasible. The blood is diluted to the point where it's no longer accurate, and this potentially could endanger outcomes. And she said, keep testing. So, until you get the result you need. And so the whistleblower eventually also wrote a book on this. This is not good. I want the thing that you're attempting to build, so I know you're testing, right? You're getting grant money to see whether this is feasible to test it even with, but this is only one pillar. Do you get me? So I need to believe that this is doable and eventually commercially viable. And I also need to figure out whether there's enough demand for what you're building. So he might have proven to me that his sensors are amazing. They work reliably 95% of the time, 99% of the time. Cool. Is anybody buying? When? You get me? If you build you can build something remarkably great. So, for example, in Estonia, a company called Plumber. It was from a very established software company with 90 million revenue. It was a spin-off. It was basically a bunch of people from the company called Nortel. They decided to build a technologically sophisticated solution for developers. And they raised venture funding from a company called Karma Ventures. Karma Ventures invests into deep tech. It's one of the oldest pan-Baltic funds, or pan-European funds, roughly 100 million euros in assets under management for the latest fund. They invested this in one of their earlier funds. And according to the CEO, the first couple of years after they received the funding, they kept insisting on that particular solution being used because they believed it's the best. But the problem was not enough people kept using it. And in hindsight, this is directly from the CEO, he said, we should have listened to our customers sooner because the growth trajectory slows down heavily. You just waste too much time because you're too stuck on the tech. You get me? Guys, you're giving 200,000 euros to some of these projects for testing, 12 months, if I understand correctly. And then maybe some of them will turn into commercially viable, things, if I got this right. All right, I'm being, how should I put it? Attempting to be neutral. But this is the basic setup of it. I understand a component of this money is going to go for you conducting your research. Am I getting this right? And testing it. Your research is supposed to eventually make money. You get me? And I want to see whether it's even worthwhile to pursue it. Not because you want to do your research, but because it's a good investment. Yes, it's a grant, but the design of it is intended to get more researchers to get into commercializations with industrial companies, but also venture. Am I clear here? And I can frame those outcomes about, for example, technology risk, research risk, and I can start grilling you on how you're going to mitigate that, and it can be legitimate. But it's only part of the story. If you remember the power law distribution, whatever we want to criticize on the axis, but the principle is still the same. You have very few outsized outcomes. Sergey Brin, Larry Page, PhDs, they had a choice. Do I pursue the PhD or do I build Google? You hear me? They built something very massive that dominates not just research or scholarly work, but the planetary information flow. You can stuck in your little silo, but if you don't deploy it, nobody cares. Well, I mean, maybe you and your supervisors and your lab members care. How are you useful? How are you going to make a lot of money? Now, you don't have to become entrepreneurs, but if you are entering this game, these are the blunt, direct questions embedded into seemingly what you're attempting to do or flirt with. You're flirting with that idea. How does that make you feel, guys? In the pitch, I want opportunity. You can touch upon risk if you want, right? But just purely de-risking is not sufficient. I do not want a fairy tale. I want an accurate story packaged with facts. And I want to decide whether this is worthwhile betting money on. More specifically, should I give it to you and your team? Should I give 200,000 euros to Roman and his lab? Or should I give it to you? Or should I give it to her? Or should I give it to this gentleman? I love the selection, right? Highly vigorous Ivy League selection criteria. Let's just give money to everybody and see what it goes. Well, in a way, the venture capitalist who is betting money on companies doesn't know which one is going to succeed. They're just minimizing the ones who are less likely to succeed, and they're increasing the probability of getting lucky. So in your short drafts, I need you to both explain to me what this thing does from your point of view, but also show what the impact it could have. The opportunity, market opportunity. And I don't mean just 10% of the market. It's way too abstract. You can touch upon that. I want you to anchor me in a specific example. So don't just tell me paint. Paint for what? Where is this going to be super useful, where people are dying to get it? Right? So he gave me a wind turbine. What does the actual practical testing means? Well, the life of the turbine is much longer now. It means that if 30% of our energy production is from wind, this is a massive impact. Do you get me here? And yeah, I don't dismiss his technology. I want to know more about it, but I don't immediately understand how this is going to be useful. So I need to unpack that. I'll stop talking for now. I'll just ask one question. Does this make sense to you, dear researchers? I'm not asking you to be founders, but if you are entering this domain and flirting with this, these are the expectations. Now, on a practical level, yes, you're asked to problem, solution, right? Scientific field. You're asked to do market analysis, the budget, the 12 months budget. You looked at a template. Many of you just took the template and started to fill it with a lot of little text, right? That's not how you do it. If you would be an investor or allocating a grant on behalf of an industrial institution with real problems, would you give yourself money? Who would you give this money to? You got to flip the script. I think you're perfectly competent in defending your own research. I'm not going to teach you how to defend your own research. What I need to teach you is how to get people excited about the opportunity and structure information in a coherent, clear way. Yeah? Cool. Let's kick this off. We're about to present. We have roughly, I believe, an hour or so. We'll also have a micro break of 10. But I think I need to touch upon something very important. So thank you for setting up the slides. Whose slides can I touch? I would like to show you mistakes using those slides. So I have your decks in this computer. Cool. What is your name, sir, and what's the name of the project so I can find it? Tom's and BM Heat. PM. All right, Tom's and PM Heat. Do we have that? All right, so. Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you for volunteering. Let's just ask based on what we have available. Let's say we pick this.
Actually, Mindaugas, do you agree or not?
Can we use your slides as an illustration of what we can do better? Is that acceptable?
I agree.
You provide consent.
You agree, yes?
What should I do?
You're not forced to. I can take somebody else. I will always ask you guys.
I know, but
This
it's
about
the
the...
best solution to provide your slides and to get a reply.
Okay, good mindset.
I don't know why you offer.
Because I will ask you to present, and a lot of you are just too anchored on slides. You think in slide terms. Do you get me? So I need to just give you an example of what happens. I'm going to show you maybe 2-3 slides, and I'm going to show you a slide individually for roughly 5 seconds. Right? I will pick a slide randomly from this, and I will show the slide to the group for 5 seconds. And I will ask you what was on the slide. Clear? So I'm not going to ask you to write it down. We will do it verbally. There is more paper right there if you need so, but for now we will just talk, right? And I'm going to use this as a tool to demonstrate what you can do better. You get me? So once again, I will show you a slide, you will look at it for 5 seconds, and your job is to tell me what you saw on the slide. I will take several of your decks, and I will take a sample of these slides. Clear? All right, let's pick a point. 5 seconds. One moment. Why the heck? Ah, there we go. Fascinating. Okay. There you go. I have 2 screens, so. Oh, no, it's good. So one moment. What was on the slide? Something about treatment? What? Chemotherapy? Tumors? Yes, it was. No big, no big, no. That's fine, that's fine. This is a good illustration. This is what happens with audiences. Some of them were maybe writing, thinking small, so this is fine. This is cool. Madam, what was on the slide? Something to do with tumors. Electro? Evaporation? These are your slides, right? Okay. What? Something applied to the tissue. What was in the slide? Not enough time. Okay, maybe this is a fluke. Let's do a few more. Okay, let me just be very charitable. Let's increase this maybe, it's a bit arbitrary. Let's give you a little bit more time. 7 seconds. Let's just increase this, right? I'll modify a little bit. Let's pick one. All right. What was in the slide? Squirrel. Did I hear correctly? Squirrel? Mapping. It was mapping something. Sir, what did you see on the slide? Hey. First 2 letters. Understood? Sir, what did you see on the slide? Real-time solution. You saw a keyword. So you saw 2 letters, you saw 2 words, or one phrase. You saw a squirrel. All right, something was happening with a squirrel. It's being tested. Poor animal. What did you see on the slide? The word solution was very big. All right, so from the template that they gave you the word solution, it was visible. Okay, sir.
I looked to the images and I have seen some base, firstly, and then part of this base was luminescent.
You saw some sort of base and luminosity?
Base, I don't know, maybe it is a tissue of human, maybe it is
Ah.
Island plate, for example.
Understood. You saw some sort of plate base. Clear.
Slide. I
Mhm.
have seen only images, and
Mhm.
I have seen that first image shows that there are some regions of
Mhm.
this base. I don't know from which matter. And the next slide, that there is a luminescence of one part of this base, and
Mhm.
we see difference between this part and other parts. And
Mhm.
the time was finished.
Clear. Understood. Let's do one more with your permission. One more, and then I'll take another deck, but you will need to give me permission, all right? Because I want to be respectful. So let's do... Okay, doesn't... Interesting. Oh, perfect. What was in the previous slide? Not this, the previous one. Some sort of crowd. 20 years of expertise. TLR4 to TLR5, okay. Anybody else? Some pictures with applications, how it's being applied. This group, this part. You saw more stuff? Similar stuff. 20 years, okay. Let's take a different deck. I'll explain what this is, but first I need you to see it. Again, I'm guiding you, I'm coaching you. Let's pick, and then ask you guys. A moment. Artist Kinens, is he here? Do I have your consent?
For a few slides, yes, why not?
Which slides do I have consent for?
I think you can do whichever you want.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, I'm not going to just point it because you guys are sensitive with your research, so although we have non-disclosure agreements, I want to be respectful. I will tie it to your task. I will show you how it connects to the writing, but ideally, guys, I will guide you to the realization, okay? You will learn a lot more and you remember it a lot more if you see it yourself, as opposed to me just spelling it out. All right, one moment. Okay. Chuk, chuk, chuk. Ah, okay. Now I see. You have a lot of animations. Okay, so let's use this, guys. I think it's going to be fine enough, right? So one moment. This is going to be a little smaller, so not fully comparable, but it's good enough. What was in the previous slide? I even give you more time because I had to click through. Quality control, seafood quality control. Anybody else? Planet Earth. What else? Market is going up, but what market, by which percentage, or around 8 or something? Okay, so market is going up. What else? Something to do with fish. Something to do with fish. Something fishy there. Okay, understood. Sir, what did you observe from the previous slide? It was too small. Fair enough. Okay, what else? No. Different challenges of some kind. All right, let's do one more from this deck. All right. Oh. I'll do a new one. This is my attempt to make it bigger for you, sir. Maybe it will work if I will do this. Let's test it. Maybe it's the first few slides that were... Okay, pro tip, no animations.
This is totally opposite what the previous mentor said.
Well, listen, guys. I've seen a lot of mistakes in presentations that are in front of 500 people to over 1,000 people. Anything from clickers to microphones to people freezing on stage to slides not working. And so when I'm giving a suggestion, most of my tips come from experiential learning. Do you get me? I had to speak in front of a lot of people myself on stages, and I trained other people how to do it. Now, I'm not exactly just teaching you public speaking. I'm teaching you how to construct and deliver information in a compact format. but it also has a component where you show slides, right? So infographics, animated infographics, if done well, and they're really tested, get done really good for explaining research. What you did with PowerPoint, maybe not a good idea for now. A lot of things can go wrong. The more moving parts you integrate, the higher the chance that something is going to go wrong. Okay, let me take a different deck, because we might have a basically confounder because your animations are blocking everything and it takes too much, okay? But seriously, my practical suggestion for the end of May, cut all animations.
Yeah. So maybe I could comment just your opinion on this, because the previous.
I will comment, here's what I'm going to do, unless it's relevant for the whole group. I'm
it's relevant.
okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
So from the
Previous
previous.
trainer.
We have had on this teaching presentation, so the consensus was to guide audience through your slide, not to overcrowd it with information.
Correct. Correct.
That's why it was suggested to use animations to show the things that you are speaking about at this moment.
All right, so I would suggest a more primitive solution to that. So you guys were given at least 9 slide requirement, right? When there's some sort of limit or upper cap for slides, or minimal amount of slides, or like basically they're pushing you have less slides. Very often, people who have not experienced this particular format, they try to stuff as much information in each individual slide to reduce the amount of slides. This is wrong. So the number of slides is not exactly fully relevant, because you can use very simple billboard slides and slowly break through them at a more faster pace, and it will be de facto breaking down the information.
So basically, divide the animations into several slides. Exactly. Switch the slides.
Yes, and it will be more foolproof, and it will force you to basically it's lower frame count, and it will discrete as opposed to like big continuous. Clear?
So this is a good suggestion.
No biggie. So as you can see, a lot can grow. One more, and then I will ask you, why did we do these tests? I need to hear this from you. Let's pick this one and ask for consent. I don't think he's here. This is AdHemo, stop, advanced hemostatic materials for dual use applications. I will show it. Is anybody here? Okay, next one. Roman, may I use your slides? I guess you're Blade Live. Okay, one moment. We'll perform the same test. Let's set up. What's happening? Is it getting tired? It listened for me for too long. It might have been animation, but something's happening here. All right. God damn it. What was in the slide? Team. Okay. Who is the team? Well, based on this slide, who is in the team? What are they? Researchers and business partners. Anybody else? Some sort of business developer. Diverse team. All right, I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to ask you, why did we perform these tests? What did you observe? You just zone out.
I just like looking at slide. I even don't like reading, even though you will ask these questions. I only see these scores, but it's fine.
Understood. You look at an incongruent or like a particular piece of it, but without a cohesive story, you're not deciding, should I pay attention, should I not pay attention? You're basically not there.
I'm looking what, yeah, maybe if it's funny, then I'm looking for interesting, just like, no, but I'm not even interested to read.
Understood? Thank you. Absolutely. Let's do it.
So, you know, the task for the commission and probably the task for these five people will be to look carefully and to, this is not the case that they are not reading, because in every commission they are obliged to see, this is the task. Okay, Josh? What are you saying?
Okay, guys.
Because I should assess the people. The student comes, I sit in commissions. The student comes and say 10 or 5, you know, and this is his fate. I decide. It's
Very important. And you're going out of your way, okay, I'm going to really read everything and I'm going to pay attention because it's his life at stake.
Yeah, yeah.
Understood. It's a responsibility. All right. So a large chunk of the audiences, yes, sir, Roman. Shoot.
I'm from opposite side. I prepare students, and last year my student had brilliant presentation instead in front of us, but he failed the presentation there, and it didn't help. And people read, and it was written. It didn't help. He had very bad mark. So the issue is how you impress, but not what you write.
Okay, one moment. All right, so just one moment, guys. Obviously, we'll have some spectrum of opinions on this, right? But what I can tell you, so anybody had an undergrad in psychology or neuroscience, anything like this? Okay, so hard sciences all the way, okay. But you know that the brain cannot consume every piece of information presented to it. You're familiar with this gating, right? Okay. When you're actually tested to retell me what was on the slide, you might generate a legitimate observation. Now, yes, I can assume that they will be a highly captive audience and paying attention to every single word. Based on the sample of slides I saw there and saw today, you have created slides that are overwhelming with information. A human being is unlikely to make a good decision based on the crowded slides you have created. Do you understand me? It is too much. My practical suggestion regarding visuals is to treat them as billboard ads. Like you're driving from Vilnius to Kaunas, you're going from Tallinn to Tartu, from Tartu to Riga, and there's a bunch of ads. And it says, an Estonian kohuke, right? I don't know if it's like a little chocolate bar, and it says tasty. Or you would show an image of a machine, like a wind turbine, 16:9 aspect ratio. And you'd say 30% and maybe add 1 or 2 numbers if necessary. And the rest of the information comes out of your mouth. Do you get me? Here's what happens when you're speaking. So right now, I've isolated one part of the signal. I only showed you the slides. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. What we're doing is prioritizing information. If I understand you correctly, you're asking me, what if the listener lost track of what's being said, and the only thing they go by is a chocolate bar slide? Did I understand you correctly, sir? All right. One more. Okay, one more. So let me finish the answer, and I'll get back to you, and then I have to summarize. Otherwise, we're losing track. I need to consolidate. The challenge is that, okay, I told you, you are the presentation, not the slides. You need to be fluent. You need to be clear verbally. and you need to be able to hold people's attention for at least 5 minutes. Clear? I do not want you to make me read the slides while talking over those slides, because multitasking is not effective. Context switching is not effective. You can do it with dancing. You cannot do it with consuming complicated data on results of testing on blood work or wound treatment. You cannot listen to a person properly and read at the same time. Do you get me? It is not fully possible for a lot of people unless it's word by word. And if you're doing word by word and reading the slides to me, I can read faster generally the small content than you can tell it verbally. The images are preferred. They will articulate and show. So for example, if you want to illustrate what this thing is, wind turbine, this piece, here's what happens when it breaks down the first 3 years, they're supporting visuals. But you still need stats. And I don't need like 15 different statistics. I need maybe top 5. You need to heavily prioritize information, and the rest comes out of your mouth. But a lot of people use their slides basically as their memory because they don't prepare their scripts fully a lot of the time. That's not how you do it. That's why a lot of academic presentations are very hard to listen to, and that's why your students sometimes struggle to retain information from a class unless you really give them a lot of tasks. And no, again. Do you get me here? Sure. Okay, fair enough. All right, so for you, if you want to interact with the audience and engage them a little more, you can sprinkle this 5-minute presentation, 1 or 2 questions. How many of you do? Or you can show them a quick test, right? So what do you see on this visual? Right? You can engage them, you can embed that. That's fine if you want to interact with them more. You can increase the chances of something being remembered, or you can decrease the chances of something being remembered and being understood. Do you get me? I want to increase the chances of your people are paying attention to you, they can remember what you're saying, explain it, and they can ask intelligent follow-up questions and make an accurate decision. I am not asking you to shotgun information my way as to show me that you know what you're talking about because you've been taught by your supervisors or your university lecturers before that that's how you present information. I'm saying it's wrong. Do you understand me? You're doing it more as a cultural ritual and a habit than actual objective evidence to the contrary. Marketers know this. Now, yes, some informations are vapid. They're empty. So TED Talks get credit, technologyentertainmentdesign.com, TED.com. Let's say, I know, Bill Gates or Elon Musk or, I know, like Al Gore or like also researchers, they come in and give it an 18-minute talk. And they usually also construct simple slides, and they prepare for roughly 6 months. And they become very popular, right? So like, I know, researchers-wise, Emmy Cuddy. And unfortunately, those talks become tens of millions of views, very popular. And let's say Emmy Cuddy, the psychologist, she starts talking about power posing. And then much later, her researcher comes out, co-author, says, I no longer believe in the results of the work. But the talk already became massively popular. I don't want you to create TED Talks. I do want you to be accurate. But I want you to be able to construct scripts and visuals that a person can actually pay attention to and has a higher chance of retaining, remembering. And more importantly, in the Q&A, you're able to have a meaningful conversation, not like spend half of it trying to understand what the heck the person is actually doing. Now, some of you, and this is very common, say, well, I need to prove my research is accurate, and I don't have all the space. How can they possibly understand what I'm working on? You can create appendix slides. So in the Q&A, the 10-minute conversation that you're going to have, you can pull up an additional slide to address a specific question you feel needs addressing. And that indeed can be a little bit more detailed to illustrate a point. Again, the pitch is not supposed to explain everything. You don't have the time. It's a conversation starter. Do you get me here? You think you understand and see more than you actually do. I just demonstrated this to you with your own slides. And yes, we can assume that some of them are like super captive on every single thing. But I would argue that's a lower probability. Instead, they will have basically a mix between him, so what was your name once again? Thomas, right? So him looking at a squirrel with, I don't know, attachments, and you being super responsible, trying to figure out not to fail a human life. And so it's a spectrum. Very shallow level attention, right? And somebody who's super responsible. I cannot base my presentation on the assumption that you're the 100% of the audience. That would be fallacious. Nor can I fully assume that everybody is like Tom's, who's like, okay, whatever, squirrel. I'm playful, right? It's somewhere in between. I rather make sure that people are A, be able to pay attention, B, are able to remember, C, ask intelligent questions, and D, make an intelligent decision whether they want to give you 200K or not. Is that fair enough? You are overestimating how much information a person can consume from your crowded slides. But then what do you do differently then? Well, I ask you for 20 minutes to write down a component of your script. I need you to verbally deliver the vast majority of the information and use slides purely as a backdrop. You don't even look at your slides. You say the sentences, you look at the audience, pick 3 points in the room, and slowly transition between them. Am I speaking Swahili? Poker faces are great. Talk to me. Am I being clear in what I'm asking you to do? Is that doable? Thomas, are you playing with me? Or you're being real? Yeah, okay, so what I'm trying to do is that tomorrow I will be asking you to do full presentations, one by one, verbally and with slides. I want you to go to your slides, take a hatchet, you know, The Shining, here's Johnny, like an axe, and cut 90% of those slides. And I don't mean number of slides, I mean content per slide. You hear me? If I am forced to read and listen to you and you have a long list of text, you have failed. I want the majority of meaningful information to come out of your mouth. That is the script you started writing. You start with writing, you test it out verbally here, then you go back to the drawing board with the visuals. The visuals are supporting your script. And no, you will not be reading that script at the end of May. It has to come out of you from memory. And I don't want you to sound scripted like a telemarketer or something, or like an actor. It's supposed to formulate your sentences, so you don't have to think about what you're going to say. And if you're thinking that this sounds like a lot of work, yeah, that's what it takes to do proper presentations and be clear in a short amount of time. The shorter the talk, the harder it is. Okay, how does that make you feel? Am I bumming you the hell out? Sorry? Yes? No?
So what do you want for tomorrow? A wide presentation?
I want a script first. So we have 15 minutes, we have a little bit more, but for now I want to demonstrate to you how you can improve purely verbally in real time based on your scripts. You can still read here in training, but I want volunteers now. Yeah, you wrote a script. Before that, you saw me give an example of a proto-pitch, not complete, based on Roman's input, based on his project. I ask you to explain the nature of the problem to me, scale of the problem. I ask you to demonstrate the solution. I ask you to talk about your team. You heard me, right? Science and a bit of a market. Some of you got to problem, solution, and team, maybe, right, but not market and all that. Whatever you have, I want it here. Clear now? This will not be perfect. It's not going to be amazing, but we're learning by doing. Yes. And I'm not going to give you 5 minutes, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Guys, I'm not ever asking you to do anything I wouldn't do. I lead by example. Do you get me? I can take every single one of you, absorb my information, and construct a pitch like ChatGPT. You get me? I'm not a... yeah, let's do it. So, 3 minutes. Now, if you're going to be a little over time, you can still finish the sentence, but that's your target. It will not be perfect, but please look at people in the eye. So you can look at their scripts and all that, but you're talking to people. Now, some of you will be nervous, right? Your heart rate will go up, right? Your, mom spaghetti, if you want to listen to Eminem. Mouth is dry, right? It's fine. The only thing you need to remember when you either forget something or you're overwhelmed, inhale through your nose very slowly. and then move on. I'm not kidding. When you forgot what to say next due to stress levels increasing, you need to inhale slowly through your nose, inhale, exhale, and move on. So if the thing you planned did not come to you in that period, just drop it and move on. Sir? Yes. Think of it as, I don't know, some of you did yoga ever? Or running. Have you done running? CrossFit, okay. But breathing in sports is very important, right? So I'm a runner, right? I'm a fast runner. And if I don't breathe properly, it will affect my performance. In yoga, I also done a little bit of yoga. You know, my ex got me into it. But there's a lot of inhaling and exhaling. Basically, it calms you down. But don't do hyperventilation or very loud breathing sounds. Okay? It's supposed to slow you down. You're not, so guys, one mistake is when people feel like they have to say a lot in a short amount of time, they start speaking really fast and saying a lot. But you're not supposed to do that. You get me? You have to have still pauses, you have to have less text, and you have to pace yourself when you're speaking. If you don't breathe, as if, for example, one elegant test, is your sentence too long? If you have to take, air in the middle of the sentence, your sentence is too long. Swimmer is not included in this calculation. Okay? Lung capacity is off the charts. Clear so far?
One question.
Absolutely.
So if I'm reading this and I look at the time and I have like 1 minute left, should I just cut short or just?
Don't look at the time. There will be a little beep. You'll hear it. Just finish the sentence and stop.
Okay.
Cool? The idea is that I'm not being mean to you saying, now, stop. I'm giving you a sense of time. So for example, when you described that how when you were writing it, you quickly ran out of time because you have all these topics. I need you to get a clear idea, control over time, how little 5 minutes actually is. Because you might be presenting at the same, basically in the same mode as if you're presenting an academic presentation for 30, 40 minutes. No, different game altogether. I need you to feel it in your skin. Clear?
Yes.
Any more questions?
Probably a bit later. I will just do it.
Cool. So this is iterations. This is not perfect. This is drafting. We're learning by doing. Correct. I'm going to give you my microphone, right? Guys, some people get stressed out because as soon as they hear their own voice, oh, is that my voice? I need you to experience all these things, so if you have that situation again, you're no longer rattled. Rattled means you suddenly lose your cool and get nervous. Learn by doing. This is experiential training. In the military training, this is like train as you fight. You don't just sit for a bunch of PowerPoints, you actually simulate the scenario of entering a compound. You get me? So yeah, you might know what you're doing, but under stress, you turn into, well, a chimp.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be perfect, but talk to the audience.
Check.
Excellent.
One, two.
I will press the button when you will start speaking. The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Is it?
I'm waiting for you.
Okay, sorry. So, hello, my name is Laura, and we are creating new laser technology for hair bleaching. So, hair bleaching is harsh chemical process. And bleaching means we are going from darker hair color to lighter. And the hair bleaching can't be done without the damage. And the way we do hair bleaching now haven't changed for over 100 years. And for people with dark hair, which is 90% of women in the world, hair bleaching is a very difficult, expensive, unpredictable, and most importantly, damaging process. Because hair becomes weak and breaks. And in most cases, hair during the bleaching can just burn and fall out. So our solution is to replace chemistry with physics. We are replacing chemical bleaching process with new laser technology that can bleach any hair color without the damage and without damaging hair structure and humans' health. So we have done proof of concept, we have fine-tuned the laser parameters and run several tests in the laboratory to see the hair's molecular structure before and after the bleaching. the process. So we conclude that process. So laser bleaching is safe, and it is expected to be up to 10 times faster than current chemical bleaching process. So the team, we bring diverse background with strong expertise in physics, optics, bioinformatics, and business product innovation. Our previous experience in laser prototyping will allow us to design precise, safe, and user-friendly hair bleaching device. So the hair coloring market is valued $95 billion, and hair bleaching itself is 10 billions. Our business model is B2B, meaning we will focus at the moment, at first, on luxurious hair salons. And our target market is Asia. And about competitors, there are no direct competitors because there's no such device at the moment in the market, but there are many indirect competitors, and the biggest of them is L'Oreal, Keune, and Vela. What else I have? What else we needed?
That's fine. We're going to finish early.
okay.
Say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hand of applause for one of our first volunteers. How did you feel?
Good, I
So
guess.
I usually use a scale. So 0, no stress, 10, highly stressed. And if a person reaches an 8, I allow them the option to sit down and try again later. I am not joking. So on that scale, can you describe to me maybe beginning of the presentation, end of the presentation, what's the stress?
So the stress is 3 because I have my notes.
Understood. Very good. All right.
Can I?
One moment. All right. We're going to perform a test. And the test is specifically with her. Now, she had her notes. You were able to, say these things from writing. Now I will ask her to roughly pitch in a minute from memory.
Okay.
Right? So you have less content, but I need you to essentially, I use my timer here, but please, could you summarize what you just said with a very basic category, so problem, solution, in a tighter 1 minute,
In 1 minute.
from memory.
In 1 minute.
Yes.
Okay.
So when you forget something, you inhale, exhale, right? But that's the target. If you're going to be over 1 minute, I'm not going to stop you, but I need you to basically condense the matter. I need to condense the content, right?
Okay.
So problem, solution, all that structure applies, but tighter. Let's do it.
Okay. So, oh, sorry. Should I say hello as well, or?
Up to you, but you have 1 minute.
Okay. So, we are creating new laser technology for hair bleaching. So currently, hair bleaching haven't changed. The way we do hair bleaching haven't changed over 100 years. So chemical bleaching is very harsh chemical process that basically burns the hair. So our solution is to replace this chemical dramatic process with physics. So we are creating and proposing new laser device that can safely bleach any type of hair, even the black or dark brown hair, because currently this current process doesn't allow that. And in the world, there are at least 90% of women has dark hair, meaning that at least 2 billion of women cannot undergo safe bleaching without damaging their hair. So the market.
Team. Tell me about team.
About a team. So we we bring together a diverse team in strong competence in physics, optics, bioinformatics, and business.
All right. What was the difference between her longer version and this version?
Much faster.
Okay. So again, let's contextualize all the differences and say then compare them. So what else? She smiled more.
Information.
Less information.
It was clear.
It was clearer. What else?
She not talk about his team.
Right. She ran out of time. Right. We just got to it. Again, we condensed it. Right. From roughly 3 minutes, and she was just getting to it, but she ran out of time. What else? What are the differences? What do you mean by fluency yours? I see. So you were able to better follow this. It was coherent. It was transitions were clearer. Understood. Anybody else? Any other more observations? She had more training. So she did the first 3 minutes, right? She got out of her system, then she did a shorter 1 minute, right? So she had more time on training. What else? All right, so she started highlighting the problem a little faster, right? So there's obviously overlap in content between the first, so the 3 minutes in the beginning of it, and this one, right? So she rehashed it a little bit, but it seems that she was able to get to the point of the problem faster. Concentric? It was, okay, got it. It's like juice concentrate, right? It was very condensed. What was the effect on you as an audience? So the effect on you when she was able to do it from her top of her head was a greater fluency, and the paper did not distract you. But what was the effect when she condensed it like that? This group. You were easier to understand, and the three of you, what was the effect on you as listeners? You were set, right, the two of you. No, no, understand. So this is a common mistake, right? Good. Understood. So again, we're training right now because you wrote this. You haven't fully prepared it. But I also want to show you differences, right? So how was the effect on you based on what you saw when she condensed it? With what? Okay. Could you put it in your own words? What was the effect on you? But why? Cool, so less to listen to. But what substantively changed? So if you're looking at a material, imagine he's analyzing, I know, you're looking at coding, you're looking at damage to a wind turbine, and you're zooming in, you're using your sensor to analyze it, right? There's some sort of textural change. Obviously, the 1 minute was somehow different, and we're trying to zoom in. What were the different properties of the 1 minute short pitch compared to a longer one? We're trying to be a little more specific. I'm poking for learning outcomes. I will back off soon. Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Understood. Good. So let me contextualize this. So focus on you, and another one is she was using, so you said it's like a conversation. This is called conversational tone of voice. The opposite of that would be a formal tone of voice. When you have, let's say, the vice rector, the full garments, or the rector coming in with with a hat, right, and saying, "It's a great pleasure, dear colleagues, tenure members, to be here today. It's a valuable." You get the idea, right? It is very formal. She spoke to as if she's speaking to, well, colleagues and friends. But so the brevity of it is a component. When you write these scripts, you're not supposed to read the scripts. But when you're writing it, you're supposed to write in a conversational tone of voice. But to test whether you have and whether you have too much information, you have to read it out loud and then try to do it without the paper. It's an editing process. Because the first draft of anything is always shit. But it makes for great creative fertilizer. If somebody's in fertilizer or whatever, so there's always somebody, pun intended. But what I mean is, this is a quote, roughly. The first part of it is from allegedly Ernest Hemingway. Right? So the first draft of anything is always shit. The idea is that you iterate. You don't try to produce a perfect draft, a perfect presentation from one go. You test it out, like we just did. You got me?
Yeah. For me, I like better without the paper.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm not asking you guys to read your paper. I'm just giving you the option to. The end goal, don't read papers. Clear? But you need to structure your thoughts on paper, sentence by sentence, right? So you know what to say next. Okay, is there anybody who's a professionally trained actor here? Okay, all right. So I'm not expecting you to. I'm not asking you to pretend to be somebody else. I want you to be you. I just want to take you and clean up the signal from all the darn noise. And I want you to amplify it and condense it. Is that analogy hitting home? You get me? This applies to text like this, right? Because you don't have a lot of time. You have max 5 minutes, and even that is too much. And your slides. I need billboards. But I don't want reductionist dumbing down. I want a representative sample. I'm using it as an analogy. I'm not literally asking you for a representative sample of your material. I'm asking you to select a small piece of the deck that you had, the small piece of the research you conducted, and integrate it into a story-based presentation. But that sample has to give me a reasonably good idea what you're doing, what your plans are, who you guys are. For example, in Team Slide, I don't need this CV in small text from every single member of the team. I don't need to see where you've been published. Do you understand me? I need a very small snippet, LinkedIn level snippet. Is that fair enough? And the implicit question, if you want to really unpack that, why should I give you 200,000 euros? Do you understand me? Now, you don't have to literally say, and begin your presentation, here's why you should give me 200,000 euros. I don't want that. It's between the lines. Like, you know, what you're able to accomplish as a team. Now, we're not complete, guys. I'm going to give you now, let's see how much time we have left.
10 seconds.
2:30, was it? Yes. 2:30, right? So just to be clear, I'm going to give you a 10-minute break. But when we come back, I want as many of you to come here and do a quick 3-minute.
Okay.
Is that acceptable? And please hand of applause for one of our first volunteers. She did really well, all right? I'll set up a timer so you'll see it. So 10-minute break, guys. Please walk around.